I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've got a story that's probably going to make a lot of people shake their heads, but I need to get it out somewhere. I was married to Emily for about 3 years. We met in college, had a pretty good relationship, or so I thought. She was the kind of woman who could be bitchy, sure, but I thought that was just her personality. She seemed ambitious, driven, a little fiery, typical alpha female type. We'd been planning this big wedding for months, and honestly, I thought everything was perfect. We had friends and family around. It was supposed to be the happiest weekend of our lives. From the start, though, I noticed weird little things. Emily started acting distant a few weeks before the wedding. She'd cancel plans last minute, make excuses about work, or just brush me off. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe she was stressed, or maybe she was just nervous about the wedding. But then I caught her lying a couple of times, just small stuff, nothing major but enough to plant a seed of doubt. Still, I shrugged it off. I mean, people have their secrets, right? I figured she was just under pressure and would be fine once we got through the wedding. The wedding itself was a whirlwind. Everything went smoothly, or so I thought. The ceremony was beautiful and the reception was a blast. But then, the night of the wedding, things started to feel off. Emily was acting weird, more distant than usual. She kept checking her phone, sneaking little glances at it during the reception. I caught her doing it a few times but didn't say anything. I was happy, surrounded by our friends, ready to start our life together. Little did I know, that night was just the beginning of a nightmare I'd only realize fully days later. After the wedding, we went on our honeymoon. A week in a tropical paradise, supposed to be our escape, our honeymoon. But even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Emily was bitchy as hell the whole time, snapping at me over small things, dismissing my attempts at intimacy, and acting like she'd rather be anywhere else. She was telling me she was tired, stressed, out, that everything was just too much. But then I found something that shattered everything I thought I knew. I was cleaning up in the hotel room, just trying to get our stuff organized, when I noticed her phone was unlocked on the nightstand. I wasn't snooping, just happened to see it because I was reaching for my charger. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages, flirty, suggestive texts from some guy named Jake. They weren't just innocent. They were explicit. Things like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "Last night was amazing, but I want more." That's when I realized Emily had been cheating on me during our honeymoon, during what was supposed to be our perfect getaway. I spent the next few moments trying to process it. I couldn't believe it. I was married to a woman who lied constantly, who had been sneaking around behind my back from the start. I didn't even know what to feel: anger, betrayal, heartbreak, all at once. I slipped her phone back on the table, my hands trembling. I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew I needed to think. I stepped outside onto the balcony, took a deep breath, and just stared at the ocean, trying to make sense of everything. How could she do this? After everything we'd been through, after all the promises, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, like my whole world was crumbling. And all I kept thinking was, how long has this been going on? I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to face her. Whatever she said, whatever excuse she gave, I knew my trust in her was gone for good. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at her while she slept, pretending I was just exhausted from the wedding, but really I was trying to figure out what to do. Part of me still wanted to believe she'd somehow deny it, or that maybe I was misreading the signs, but I knew better. The messages didn't lie, and I'd seen enough signs. Her weirdness, the phone, the way she'd act like I was invisible sometimes. That was the moment I decided I couldn't just let it go. I had to confront her. Morning came with the first light filtering through the curtains. Emily was still sleeping, her face peaceful, but I knew better. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to collect my thoughts. I wanted to ask her outright, but I knew whatever she said wouldn't be the truth. She was the queen of lies, bitchy, manipulative, and good at twisting everything around. I remembered her telling me during the last few weeks about how perfect she and Jake were, how he was just a friend, how I was overreacting. Yeah, right. I finally woke her up and just blurted it out. "Emily, I saw your messages. I know you've been cheating on me." The look on her face was classic, like I'd just insulted her. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, and shot me a look that was full of disdain. What are you talking about? You're seeing things. You're just paranoid because of the wedding stress. That lie came out quick like she'd practiced it. I shook my head, feeling my stomach tight. No, I'm not stupid. I saw the texts. The ones from Jake. The ones where you say you want to see him. That last night was amazing for you. Tell me, Emily, what the hell is going on? She rolled her eyes and scoffed. You're crazy. You're overreacting. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I accidentally left my phone unlocked. Maybe you're reading into things. Honestly, you're such a jealous ass sometimes. I don't know what you want me to say. Her tone was bitchy, sarcastic, and dismissive. It made me furious. This was her way of lying her way out of it, gaslighting me like I was some kind of nutcase. But I wasn't about to fall for that. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, that I'd found proof, and that I was done. She looked at me with this contemptuous expression, then started crying, fake tears, the kind she's perfected over the years. You're so insecure, Mike. You think I'd cheat on you? That's ridiculous. Jake's just a friend and you're just imagining things because you're insecure about losing me. I don't know what you want from me. I'm not some cheating bitch. Her words stung, not because she was crying, but because she was lying so easily. She was good at turning everything around and making me feel like I was crazy. That's what she did best: lie, manipulate, and blame me for everything. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I wanted to leave, to think about everything, and that I wasn't going to stay in a marriage built on lies. She yelled at me, called me all kinds of names, controlling, paranoid, insecure, and stormed out of the room to grab some air. I stayed there, staring at her empty side of the bed, feeling numb. Everything I thought was real had just been shattered. My trust, my marriage, my entire world was upside down. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything in my head. The signs I missed, her lies, the texts, the way she dismissed me. It was like a switch flipped inside me. I realized I had to decide whether I was going to keep going with this, or finally accept that she was never the woman I thought she was. The woman I loved was someone I barely recognized anymore, a stranger who had been sneaking around behind my back from the start. This wasn't just a fling or a mistake. It was a full-blown betrayal, and I didn't see any way back from it. At that moment, I knew whatever happened next, my life would never be the same. The next morning, I made up my mind. I couldn't stay in that hotel room pretending everything was fine, pretending I hadn't seen what I saw. I packed a bag quietly, trying not to wake Emily, who was still pretending to be asleep. Part of me wanted to wake her up and tear her apart, to scream at her for everything she'd done, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. She was a master of twisting things around, and I needed a plan. I wanted to handle this smart, not just rage. I left the hotel and drove straight to my parents' house. I needed someone to talk to, someone who wouldn't just tell me to forgive her or work things out. I needed advice, a real perspective. My dad was baffled. He knew Emily and liked her, but even he could tell there was something off. My mom, on the other hand, was furious. She told me I deserved better, that I shouldn't let her treat me like that. I told them everything, and honestly I was trying to stay calm, but inside I felt a mix of heartbreak and rage. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, had been sleeping with my best man during our wedding weekend. Yeah, you read that right, best man. His name was Jason. We known him for years. Good guy, or at least I thought he was. Turns out he was just as much a piece of shit as Emily. I didn't even want to call him friend anymore. That night I found out from someone else, someone who saw them together in my honeymoon suite. When I got the call, my stomach dropped. I didn't even bother asking how they managed to be so stupid. That was the first real punch to the gut. The betrayal wasn't just from Emily, it was from Jason too. Both of them had been lying to my face for weeks, maybe longer. I felt sick. I kept replaying the whole wedding weekend in my head. The smiles, the vows, the pictures, the promises we made in front of everyone. All fake. Every single word she said, every kiss she gave me was tainted. I started questioning everything. Was I even married to her? Was any of it real? Did she ever love me, or was I just some fool she was using? The confusion turned into anger. No, not just anger, I was furious. Furious at her, furious at Jason, and honestly furious at myself for not seeing it earlier. That night I sat alone in my parents' living room trying to process the chaos. I knew I had to confront her again, this time not just with words but with a plan. I couldn't just walk away and pretend it never happened. Hell, I was tempted to blow everything up right then and there, to tell everyone what she'd done, but I knew I needed to think smarter. I had to be strategic. I wanted her to feel what I felt: humiliated, betrayed, broken. I didn't want to just walk away. I wanted her to understand the pain she caused me. That's when I decided I'd get revenge, not in some petty way, but in a way that would hit her where it hurt the most: her false sense of control. I started researching, looking into what I could do. I wasn't naive. I knew revenge could backfire, but I also knew I had to make her regret every lie, every cheating moment. I wanted to expose her to everyone she cared about, make her own lies turn against her. I spent hours planning. I wanted her to realize that her perfect world was crumbling because of her own choices. I started gathering evidence, messages, photos, anything that could prove she'd been unfaithful, not just to me but publicly if it came to that. I wanted to be prepared. I needed leverage. All this time I kept asking myself, what now? Do I confront her again? Do I tell her I know and see if she finally cracks? Or do I just cut her loose and walk away? I wasn't sure. I was hurt, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. She thought she could lie her way through everything, manipulate her way out of the mess, but I wasn't going to let her. She wanted to keep lying. Fine. I'd give her a taste of her own medicine. She'd see just how much her actions had destroyed. And that's where I was, on the edge of everything falling apart, just waiting for the right moment to strike back. Over the next few days, I stayed with my parents, trying to sort through the mess she'd created. I couldn't believe how quickly everything spiraled out of control. I started pulling together all the evidence I could find: screenshots of her texts with Jake, photos of her sneaking out, even a few voice messages she accidentally left lying around. I wanted everything documented, airtight. I knew that if I was going to ruin her, I had to do it properly. I wasn't interested in some petty revenge. I wanted her to pay for what she did in a way that she'd never forget. Meanwhile, Emily was still acting like nothing had changed. She texted me constantly, pretending to be innocent, acting like I was overreacting. She threw in her usual lies: it was just sex, she'd say, Jake's just a friend, or you're paranoid, Mike. She played the victim, like I was the one ruining everything by accusing her. But I didn't buy it anymore. I knew her game. She loved her lies, her manipulations. That's what she was good at: lying her way out of everything, turning her flaws into reasons I was the problem. Then there was Jason. I learned he was actively lying to his own friends, claiming he and Emily had just been reconnecting or helping each other through tough times. Yeah, right. That made me sick. How could two people be so selfish? They ruined my marriage and then had the nerve to act like I was the crazy one. I didn't want to just confront her anymore. I wanted to destroy her reputation, her image. I wanted everyone to see who she really was. I wanted her to feel the embarrassment, the shame that I was feeling every single day. I started drafting a message to some of her close friends and family, a brief outline of what I knew. Not to shame her outright, but enough so that they'd see her for what she truly was: someone who cheated, lied, and manipulated her way through her marriage. I was careful about how I phrased everything. I didn't want to come across as petty, but I also didn't want to hold back. If she thought she could get away with this, she was dead wrong. I was going to make sure everyone knew the truth. While I was doing that, Emily finally started to crack. She began to panic, realizing I was serious. She begged me to talk, to listen, promising she'd change, that it was a mistake, a one-time thing. I didn't believe her, but I played along just to keep her talking. I told her I needed time to think, that I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. She threw tantrums, calling me selfish and crazy, accusing me of ruining everything. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying she loved me, that she'd never hurt me if I just gave her a chance to explain. But I knew better. I'd seen enough. I knew her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude, how she always played the victim, even when she was the villain. She thought she was untouchable, that she could lie her way out of this. But I wasn't going to let her. I was done being the fool. I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean before I took things public. If she refused, if she kept lying, then I'd ruin her. I'd make sure everyone knew what kind of woman she really was. I wanted her to feel the same way I felt, broken, humiliated, betrayed. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not this time. The day I finally decided to go through with everything was one of the hardest in my life. I prepared my messages, gathered more evidence, and set a plan in motion. I didn't want to just expose her to her friends or family, though that was part of it. I wanted her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies, the consequences of her betrayal. I knew I couldn't undo what she'd done, but I could make her regret it, make her understand that her actions had shattered everything we built. That afternoon, I sent out the carefully crafted messages. To her sister, her best friends, even her boss. I kept it vague but impactful, hinting at the truth without outright revealing everything at once. I wanted her to panic, to realize her perfect facade was crumbling. I watched her face change as her phone pinged nonstop. Her eyes widened when she saw the messages, and her usual bitchy attitude turned into something darker: fear, anger, desperation. She stormed into the living room, screaming, accusing me of trying to ruin her life. She called me jealous, paranoid, and said I was trying to control her. She begged me to delete everything, to erase what I'd sent. Her tears were fake, I could see right through them now. I told her I wasn't going to delete anything. This was her reckoning. I told her that from now on, everyone would know what kind of woman she was: cheating, manipulative, selfish. That she couldn't lie her way out of this anymore. Her reaction was a mixture of fury and panic. She kicked and yelled, calling me names I don't even want to repeat, but I stayed calm. I knew I had won in a way. She realized she wasn't invincible, that her carefully crafted lies were crumbling. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd finally taken control, but it still hurt. Deep down, I felt like I'd lost part of myself in this. Yet I knew I had to keep going to see this through to the end. Over the next few days, the fallout was intense. Her phone kept ringing, her family and friends reaching out with shock and disgust. Some were angry at her, others simply didn't believe it at first. But the truth was out there now, stark and undeniable. Emily tried to deny everything, but the evidence was too overwhelming. She became more bitchy, more aggressive, trying to spin her lies to anyone who would listen. But it was too late. Nothing she said could undo what was already done. And me? I felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized how much I'd been blind, how much I'd loved her even when she was clearly cheating and lying. That love was gone now, replaced by a cold, hard understanding that I deserved better. I knew I had to decide whether I was going to fight for a marriage that was already broken or walk away. Honestly, part of me wanted to cut all ties, to just disappear and start over. The betrayal was so deep, I couldn't see how she'd ever trust me again, or I her. But one thing was clear: I was never going to let her control me again or pretend that this was just a mistake. No, this was her choosing to be a liar and a cheat, and I was done playing the fool. In the end, I decided to file for divorce. It was the only way I could truly take back control of my life and start healing from the betrayal. I didn't want to be that guy who stayed in a marriage built on lies, pretending everything was okay. Watching Emily try to cling to her false image, trying to manipulate everyone around her, only made me more certain I was doing the right thing. I wanted her to understand that her choices had consequences, that she couldn't cheat, lie, and manipulate her way through life without paying the price. The aftermath has been a roller coaster. Some friends and family were disgusted, others disappointed, but most just surprised. No one saw it coming, especially her close ones. Her reputation took a hit. She lost some friends, and her family was furious when they found out the truth. She tried to spin her lies even after everything was out, but no one bought it anymore. It was like watching a house of cards fall apart, and honestly, I felt a strange sense of relief. I no longer had to wonder if I was crazy, or if I was just imagining things. The truth was out there, and I had finally accepted that I deserved better than someone who could so easily betray me. For myself, I've been healing, though it's still a process. I've realized I was blind for a long time, that I loved someone who didn't love me back the way I thought. But I've also learned how strong I can be when pushed to the limit. I trust myself more now, trust that I'll recognize red flags sooner, that I won't let myself be manipulated again. It's a hard lesson, but one I needed. I wish her no ill will, honestly. She's free now to do whatever she wants, but I know I've washed my hands of her. I'm moving forward, rebuilding. Looking back, I see everything clearly. How I was blindsided by her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations. I see how much I loved her and how much I lost when she decided to cheat. I also see that I was strong enough to finally stand up and call her out, to take control of the situation. That's what I want others to realize. If you're in a relationship where the trust is gone, don't be afraid to walk away. Don't stay just because you're scared of being alone or because you think you can fix things. Sometimes, the best revenge is walking away and refusing to let someone treat you like dirt. So yeah, that's my story. It's raw, it's real, and it's brutally honest. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that love isn't enough when trust is broken. And sometimes, you have to tear everything down to rebuild something better, something that's actually worth fighting for.